When it comes to tools, I have no problem spending my hard-earned money buying a quality tool that does a specific job. Now, this could be for guitar building or really any craft. A good tool that's made well is definitely worth spending your money on. But what do you do when a specific tool that you need for a certain job seems to be not made anywhere? Well, that's where things get really fun and one of my favorite parts of a project, because we get to let the creative juices flow, have a little bit of fun, and we get to make our own tools. That's exactly what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to show you how easy it is to make a custom scale length notch straight edge for your particular guitar project. Super easy to do, really handy. I'm Jeff, and you're watching Home Built Workshop, so make sure you stick around. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Home Built Workshop. I hope you, all of you are doing awesome today. Welcome back to the workshop where we are talking about tools for building guitars. Well, really only one specific tool, and that's a notched straight edge. I'm sure you've seen these things. A notched straight edge has a, well, straight edge and notches in it. It's about as simple as it gets. If we take a little closer look at these, really, there's nothing to it. It's just a straight edge, has the notches which fit over the frets. That way you can place it on the neck and the flat surfaces will register off of the fretboard and nothing will be affected by the position of the frets. In my workflow, using a notched straight edge is pretty important when I'm at the fretwork stage, because I know I can set the fretboard dead flat and then I can do all of my leveling, crowning, fretwork, all of that stuff while the neck is perfectly flat. These things come in a bunch of different scale lengths, and usually I just get the one that I need for a particular job. If you've been following along on the channel, you'll know that I'm right in the midst of building the Hayley Guitars SubTonic bass guitar. This is actually the neck for it. Actually, it goes like this because it's a lefty. This neck has a 32-inch scale length. A little bit different than your standard 34 or maybe even a 35-inch bass scale length. And in fact, I've got a 34 and a 35-inch notched straight edge. I also have them for all kinds of different scale lengths for guitars. These ones here in particular, made by Skyscraper Guitars, you can always tell because of the sweet orange. Not sponsored. These are my favorites. They also make these for bass scale lengths as well, but nobody that I've been able to find features a notched straight edge for a 32-inch scale length. Now, you can sort of get by with a 34. It basically, if you eliminate the first fret, it does line up, sort of, but it doesn't go all the way to the end of the fretboard, and that's what I want. So, rather than trying to mess around with something that, sort of works, we're gonna make our own that I guarantee will work. Now, different manufacturers use different materials. Some are made out of stainless steel, some are made out of aluminum. I'm gonna make mine out of some aluminum. This piece right here, to be exact, this is a piece I picked up at my local hardware store. Lots of times you can find short lengths of kind of flat stock like this. This is an 1/8 inch thick, 1.5 inches wide, and it's 36 inches long. We won't need the whole length, but it's gonna give us plenty of material to work with. After I picked the piece out of the bin at the hardware store, I wanted to make sure that it's relatively flat. And while I guess you could assume that it's probably straight and flat, I did take this over to the aisle that sells the long levels, and I held this up against a couple different levels, and I could verify that this was, in fact, flat. So I know it's going to work just fine. The key to making this project quick and easy is the fact that I'm using aluminum. You'll see why shortly. The first thing we really need to do is to mark out where we need to cut the notches. And really, the only purpose for this notch is to allow the fret somewhere to go when you place this onto the fretboard. It doesn't really set the position of anything, and it's really not a critical dimension. What's critical is that you have a flat surface around there. So really, to get my locations, I'm going to line this up on my fretboard, roughly on the center line, and I'm just eyeballing down the fretboard markers to roughly get the center line. Then I'm just going to take a pencil, and I'm going to pencil in roughly either side of each fret. I'm not going to get all scientific, try to measure, mark everything out. Again, because where this slot is is not critical as long as it fits over the fret. So if you have to make one a little bit wider and adjust it a few here and there, it really doesn't matter. I'm also going to mark where the nut is. That way I can make a little notch up there too. I want to take advantage of the full length of the fretboard for this particular straight edge. And that's it. We've got marks where we need to cut notches for every single fret location. That's all we need to do. Now we just need to cut the notches. How are we going to do that? Well, I guess you could do it by hand, hacksaw, maybe. Maybe you could drill a hole, cut away the excess. We're going to make this even quicker. We're going to use the table saw. And yes, you heard that correct. I said table saw. Did you know that you can cut aluminum on normal woodworking equipment? I've done it several times. Bandsaw, table saw, all of that sort of thing. It works awesome. Maybe a teensy bit terrifying if you've never done it before, but it does work as long as it's aluminum. And that's why I chose aluminum to make this straight edge out of. And a bonus, I think that one kerf of the table saw blade will be enough space to allow the frets to sit in there. If not, then I'll have to make some adjustments, but we're going to start off with a single kerf and see how things line up. It's going to be awesome. Don't forget your PPE, safety glasses especially, because aluminum shavings are going to fly all over and you definitely don't want one of those in your eye. Let's do this. If we take a look at our first test cut, the depth looks good. I'm going to leave that right there. But I don't know if you can tell, there's a little point right in the center. I'm using a combination blade in my table saw that has alternating teeth, and that leaves that little point in there. If you have a blade that has a flat profile on the teeth, you won't get that point. Now I could swap mine out because I do have one of those blades, but I'm not too worried about that. A couple passes with a nice sharp file will clean that up in no time. I think we're okay to go ahead and make all of our cuts. After making the passes on the table saw, I grabbed a file and just made a couple of quick passes inside each of those little cuts just to remove that point and clean up any random burrs. And once I had all those cleaned up, it's time for a test fit. Well, they all fit down on there. I don't have a ton of space back and forth, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but if I work on a guitar that has wider frets, it may not fit. I think I'm going to go back through with just a little bit larger file and open up these just a little bit more. This could be avoided by using a blade with a wider kerf. I am using a thin kerf table saw blade, so if you use a full kerf, you probably wouldn't have to do that, and one pass would be just fine. After I finished filing, I cut the piece to length using the table saw and decided to drill a little hole on one end so that I could hang this up with my other straight edges. So there's our finished custom scale length notch straight edge. I did try to etch in the Hayley Guitars logo and as well as some nomenclature for the scale length and stuff, but for some reason I used the Surmark marking material and it washed right off. I don't know if there's a coating or something on this aluminum. I tried about 4 different times. I cleaned it with acetone, I sanded it some more. I just couldn't get the logo to stick. I'm not really sure why. And if any of you have any insight as to whether or not this kind of stuff has a coating of some sort, I don't know. Maybe I should send it through the drum sander. But right now, I'm just going to set this aside. I'm excited to have this done because I'm going to need it for the bass guitar probably in the next few days. That's why I took the time to make this. So, neat little project. Really easy to make your own custom scale length guitar setup tools, or really whatever tool it is you need. It's really fun to take the time to make some custom stuff that you just aren't going to find at the store. Let's give it one more round of testing here just to make sure everything works as planned. We got plenty of space between the fret slots. Good to go. It's going to work awesome. I can't wait to use this. Again, that's going to be very soon. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you can follow along with this SubTonic bass guitar build, don't be afraid to make your own stuff and cut this aluminum on your table saw. It works really well. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you found this helpful. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.